Hey guys, and welcome to Ozzie Reviews. Well, welcome to my third edition of the monthly Q&A series where you guys who support me on Patreon get to ask me a wide variety of different questions. So let's jump straight into this month's questions. Okay, so the first question I've got here is from Chris Farr. Now Chris says, is there much difference in accuracy between sporter and varmint barrels? And what would be the best barrel option for a 223 rifle, mostly used for bench rest and the occasional hunt? Mate, first of all, the varmint barrels, usually you'll find a lot of manufacturers of those type of varmint rifles in general will offer a 5-shot MOA guarantee. So in other words, they're saying that at 100 yards using premium ammo, you can put 5 shots into an inch or better group. Okay, so and that is quite common. You will see that quite regularly. You'll also see it for lighter sporter type barrels as well. They'll say an MOA guarantee. But when you have a look at the fine print with it, it's a 3-shot MOA guarantee, which is obviously a lot easier to put 3 shots in an inch or under group size at 100 than what it is with 5. So that's the rifle manufacturers saying, well look, these varmint or heavy type rifles are a lot more consistent in the accuracy. And usually you'll find that because the sporter barrels will heat up a lot quicker, and then when you have barrels that are, that heat up and they're very, very hot, I'm not talking just a couple of rounds, if they're very, very hot from just continued use, you do see a slight bit of accuracy loss. So with the heavier barrels, they take a lot longer to heat up and they're a lot more consistent. Obviously too, taking into consideration the recoil, you have less muzzle rise too with a heavier barrel, and that's why a lot of long distance firearms are in those heavy barrel varmint type setups, because they have to be. You want every little edge you can get to get that pinpoint accuracy. So to answer your other part of your question about what is the best barrel option for a 223, a lot of manufacturers now give you an option. So in 223, the standard twist is a 1 in 12 inch twist. So with that, you'll stabilise all the lighter grain ammunition, from like 40 grain right up to about sort of 64 grain around there. So pretty much all of the 223 ammo it's going to do. However, if you want to get into a lot more of the match ammo, so like your 69 grain or your 77 grain match kings, which obviously you'd be looking at using for bench rest shooting, you're going to need a tighter twist rate. Well, it's definitely recommended. Now, a lot of the manufacturers offer a 1 in 9 or a 1 in 8 inch twist, okay? So my preference there is obviously if you can get a 1 in 8, fantastic, because you'll stabilise everything right up to sort of 75 and 80 grain projectiles from a 223. You will also stabilise, no problem at all, the standard 55 grain ammunition from 223. So when you do go out for a hunt, you're not going to lose anything there. It's not as if you've just got to stick to that heavier ammo. So mate, that would be my choice. As for actual manufacturer, I mean look, there's so many different ones out there, but just have a look at what that barrel twist is and then choose the rifle that that suits you. Now the next one here is from F-Cops, and they've signed off saying thanks Steph. So I don't know whether that's short for Stephen or it's a female Steph. Either way, please let me know so I don't offend you in future Q&As. But they've asked here, what's your opinion on breaking in Tikka rifles? Tikka recommends that you don't have to do it. I've tried not breaking in, and so far 150 grain soft points from PPU are shooting an inch at 100 metres. Now, what's your opinion on the PPU 308 soft points for blasting / plinking ammo? Just starting out on it and wondering if there's any real issues I should watch out for in terms of what they do to the rifle. Well look, good question there. Now the way that I always break in a centerfire rifle is how I've done it in my beginner series. I've addressed it, a whole video on this. Please have a look at it if you want to see how I do it. Now I know that Tikka and there's a lot of other manufacturers say that you don't need to break in their rifle. However, you talk to other people who may shoot like bench rest for example, and they'll tell you after every round you've got to patch out and clean, when you're breaking in that rifle or breaking in the barrel in particular. So there's a lot of conflicting viewpoints on it. I simply have the viewpoint of how I did in the beginner series video, and I've had no problems. That's all I can say. I'm not an expert bench rest person, and nor do I like to just get a new rifle and then just shoot. I like to just have my own break-in procedure, and that's contained in that video, so please have a look at it. The last part of your question about PPU. Well, look, the ammo is made in Serbia, so it is a cheaper ammo. As for it doing anything to your rifle, no, I've definitely not seen any evidence of that. If anything, I've got a handful of friends who love reloading the brass. Are very, very happy with the brass in general. So, you know, obviously it's a quality ammunition to some degree. The only thing that I would say is, just compare it. I mean, look, I haven't used a lot of the PPU ammunition, but just compare it, run it through your rifle and compare it to some of the other higher end brands and just see if it runs dirtier compared to those higher end brands. But in general, I mean, you don't have to do that. If you're shooting and you're getting an inch there at 100 and it works for you, just stick to it. That's my advice in a nutshell. It'd be only if you were using like the real cheap wolf ammunition, you know, the steel case, corrosive stuff. I mean, like, I certainly wouldn't be recommending something like that through your rifle, but something like PPU, look, no problem at all. If you want to run that experiment with the higher end stuff, by all means do so. Now, Nicholas Warmington says, what are some cheap alternatives to purchasing branded paper cardboard targets? Do you know of any online templates to print out and use? I want to be able to stick some to hay bales and core flute, etc. And on a side question, how come you always use the Hornady targets in your reviews? Okay, so we'll go to the first part of your question there, Nick. Yes, you can. There's numerous places that offer online targets where you can just basically print them out. The only disadvantage to it is obviously it's just coming out on normal A4 paper, so you're not going to have that high vis capability of what you see with like the Hornady targets that I use on my reviews. Now, those high vis targets, that's one of the reasons why I like using them, because obviously when I'm filming the review for you guys, is when I'm filming the groups and the shooting, it comes up and you can see where the shots are going. And also it makes it easy for me when I'm, you know, 100 yards or maybe 200 yards away, depending on what the review is. I can also see where the shots are going as well, so it makes it a little bit easier. One thing about those Hornady targets, and this is why I use them, if I run out of staples, they're actually stickers. All I've got to do is just peel them off and I can stick them straight onto the core flute on the STS targets that I use. The other thing that you can do is you know, put it straight onto, you know, a bale of hay. Obviously it's going to stick straight to it and it's going to stay put rather than trying to use you know, staples and stuff on a hay bale. I just can't see that working for you. So honestly, mate, I recommend just going and getting some. They're just over $1 each, you know, if you buy them in a 10 pack, but if you buy them in a bigger pack, you should be able to get them in a 100 pack and the price should come down quite considerably for you. So have a look at them and just see if they work for you. Now the next question is from Daniel Torrens, and he asks, do you do any reloading yourself for hand loads? In brackets he says, I assume not with how busy you are. And if you do you use reloads or hand loads on your contract shooting, or is that all factory ammo only? Mate, pretty much, yep, factory ammo, the lot. And two reasons. The first is when I actually was getting the insurance organised for the contract shooting business, I had to provide a risk assessment to the insurance broker so that they could see what my procedures were, what I actually used with regards to ammo, safety equipment, all that sort of thing. So, you know, that was one of the conditions, that I wasn't going to get out there with reloaded ammunition. It was going to be all factory ammunition, because obviously if an insurer is wanting to insure you for this sort of thing, they want to make sure that the risk is minimised. So that was one of the reasons. The second reason is that I only use 223 and 308 and obviously 22 when I'm out doing contracts. So you know, for 223 and 308 you can really buy it in bulk, and honestly, like, now that OSA are selling the Australian munitions ammunition here, you know, loaded with great stuff like, you know, Sierra Game Kings and stuff like that. The 223 there, I bought a pack of that and I bought several packets for $13.80 for a pack of 20 223 from Cleavers. You know, it was about a year or so ago, but you know, the ammunition just shoots brilliantly. You know, usually I'm getting about around that 5-shot group of 0.7, 0.6 of an inch. You can't ask for anything more, and it's under $1 a shot. Very much the same with the OSA with the 135 grain Sierra hollow points. Great cartridge as well, and you know, like, it's cheap compared to imported 308 ammo. It's really cheap. But I did jump on a whole heap of the Australian Outback ammo with the 165 grain Sierra Game Kings. Now that stuff is just brilliant ammo, excellent projectile. It'll do the job on any game here in Australia, hands down. I've said that many times, and that's what I use. It's just not worth me reloading. And you are right, if I'm actually sitting down and doing a whole heap of reloading, that's taken away from the time when I could be out doing the reviews for you guys. Next question here is from Thor Jensen. Now Thor says, what's my experience with the 4570? Now 4570 government is a hard hitter, let's be honest. You have to have the right game or the right use for it. By all means, if you just find it cool and you want to get one, take it out the range, yeah, go for it. That's all part of the fun of shooting. But for me, look, if you're going out and you want to actually take game with it, look, buffalo, very heavy, large pigs, that sort of thing. The 4570, to sort of break it down into layman's terms with a bit of an explanation, is, okay, I look at it this way. If I was to put you a few meters in front of me and pick up a golf ball and throw that really fast at you, you know, it's going to hurt, it's going to sting, you know, it's not going to knock you over. Now, if I pick up a bowling ball and then I throw it at you, it won't be going as fast, but it's very heavy, and when it gets there, it's going to hurt you and possibly knock you over. That's how I've always viewed the 4570. It's a very slow moving cartridge compared to a lot of the modern cartridges, but very, very heavy projectiles, and you know, it's got a heap of energy when it does get to its target. Obviously it's not something you want to be shooting out at quite a few hundred yards, but look, it's certainly a very capable cartridge. Out of interest, I remember when I was a kid, I used to read the Sierra reloading manual, and in that manual they'd have a bit of a spiel and a bit of a background on each cartridge, and you know, its origins, what it was used for and stuff like that. And I used to always laugh reading the 4570 page, because they were talking about the US cavalry and saying that back in the day they had to downgrade the charge in the cartridge because it was actually pushing the soldiers off the back of the horses when they were firing it. So, you know, you can imagine how much charge was in it. But look, it's certainly evolved over the years. You've got a lot of manufacturers, you know, making ammunition for it, and there's a lot of different firearms that you'll find chambered in 4570 as well. Mainly you'll find, you know, naturally lever action firearms. Marlin would probably be the one that would come to mind most. You know, seems very popular with a lot of people. So yep, only thing that I would be a bit cautious about is the cost of ammo and what your actual requirement for that cartridge is. If you're just wanting to go out and, you know, be able to take pigs, honestly, get yourself a lever action 30-30. The ammo is half the cost. Anyhow, I hope that answers your question. Okay, so the next question is from John Economides, and he asked me what my thoughts are between the 260 Remington and the 6.5 Creedmoor, and what would be my choice and why. Mate, very interesting. 6.5 seems to be the new kid on the block. I mean, we've had the 6.5 with 55 Swedish Mauser for years, you know, and a lot of people, you know, love that caliber because it's very flat shooting, good ballistic coefficient, but they've taken that a step further with the 260 Remington and the 6.5 Creedmoor. Now, the only difference really, honestly, between the 260 Remington and the 6.5 Creedmoor is that you can get roughly a little bit more pressure, so about 50 feet a second more velocity out of the 260 Remington. I just don't see the point. For me, it comes down to the cost. So the 260 Remington is about $3.65 a shot, where you're looking at about $3 a shot for the 6.5 Creedmoor. Naturally, if you're going to get into that and do long range shooting, you're probably going to end up reloading. So the costs will be very comparable. They do say that the 260 Remington The case is a little bit stronger. There's arguments about that being better. Honestly, I've seen no evidence of it. I'm not an expert on the 260 Remington by any means. For me, I just look at it in terms of practicality. The 6.5 Creedmoor is cheaper to shoot, and also have a look at the availability of 6.5 Creedmoor ammunition as opposed to 260 ammunition. Hornady, for example, they make 2 factory loads for the 260 Remington. 6.5 Creedmoor, they have 10 factory loads and more coming out all the time. So it's sort of like the old Blu-ray versus high definition DVD argument. I think the 6.5 Creedmoor will be like the Blu-ray. You know, it'll certainly be the successor of the two, and for good reason. It's just become extremely popular. So that would be my choice. Okay guys, so that wraps up this month's Q&A. If you want to become a part of this, please jump onto Patreon. You can support what we do for just $1 a month. That's it, $12 a year to help ensure that we keep pumping out the reviews. Anyhow guys, hope you enjoyed the Q&A series. Till next month, we'll catch you then.